It is 3:22. I've been up since 2:55 a.m. I think I'm in the habit of just waking up in the middle of the night and then just thinking. But I don't I was going to say I do a lot of thinking, but I'm not that kind of person where I'm trying. Yeah, so I don't yeah, so my app is acting up. Anyway, so as usual, this is going to be a totally black screen. I do recommend that if you do listen to this, go and do something else. Like in terms of just have this playing off in the side if you want to hear me talk or if you want to hear me just share my thoughts. So I was talking about. So the title of the stream is something like "You can't fix or you can't help people with not hopelessness." It's really hard, and if you guys remember right, I am, I didn't really go out in New York too much because when I went out of the apartment, I noticed that, it's just like you see someone, and I really do believe that it is a very pervasive problem. And what you guys didn't know, or what you guys may have known, is that the area that I was living in. Like it's just the way it is. But keep in mind, I've heard about the projects, as a chick from a little sunny island from Hawaii. When I hear about people growing up in the projects, I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's just a place where there's. I never thought of it as a place of like something with the app or something. Who knows? But it's weird because I can go on my computer and I'm okay. But when I'm on my phone, it causes me all sorts of issues. So, yeah, I don't know where that cut off, so I'll just repeat myself. As you guys know, or maybe you guys didn't know, we were living basically in the projects, and I've never ever lived in the projects before. Where I live in Hawaii, basically, it is, it's a place where you have people who have pools, in their apartment building, parking structures. And I'm just saying this because when people think of, uh, projects, it's basically like a all kind of brick building, and so my experience with that was non-existent. Like we have, housing in Hawaii, but it's like, it's just like, it's not a big deal, you can still go in the area and you feel fine. It's because like the people there, it's like I've known people who lived in the projects in Hawaii. Okay, they don't have like feelings of hopelessness so much. Like it's just like, oh, it is what it is. Especially when like Chinese people who live in the, like there's places like KPT, and it's called KPT, Kuhio Park Terrace, I believe is the name. And yeah, people may or may not kind of just use that to get, affordable housing, but they're not living that kind of hopelessness night life. Like you have a feeling that the family is probably squirreling away some moolah, and then they just want to do that. I've known people who live in housing, of sorts, in Hawaii, and they went to private school. So, it's not like these people are broken. They're just like, yeah, well, this is what my family's doing to just save on money, and it's like, oh, okay, no big deal. But in New York, you could see that it's just there was a lot of apathy. People just didn't really care. They didn't care about the community. You go outside and you see people just not give a crap about each other. And I'm not gonna pat it. It's just like people just don't give a crap. And it really just like it didn't bother me at first, but like slowly but surely, It's like those kind of things, it just rubbed off on me. And I think it's like when you're around people who are broken and you're around people who just have hopelessness and you have people who are apathetic and people who don't really care about each other, it just gets into your brain. Because what is your natural reaction then? You stay indoors, right? You say, like, I don't really want to go out. I don't want to deal with certain people. Um, I've shared with you guys, right? Like, I did not experience racism in Hawaii. Um, because like in Hawaii, like there's mixed races, okay? Like I interact with people of all different races in Hawaii, but there's this idea that we're all in it together. Like we're just like people stuck on an island and we better make the most of it because everybody complains about housing and everybody complains about, prices of groceries, and it turns into really a bonding experience. And we think to ourselves, well, we don't have that much money, but at least we have nice people and we have nice weather. And people in Hawaii really hold on to it. We hold on to like the things that don't cost a lot of money, which is being nice and warm to each other. See, like not rich in stuff, but really rich in heart. And going into a place like where, we lived in New York and just seeing that kind of stuff where it's like you feel that there's a lot of like there's not like warmth, there's not like true warmth like you felt in Hawaii. It just really got under my skin. And I finally understood, when I was thinking about it. I said, now I understand why I hear that popular phrase where they say, oh, people want to get out of the projects. I thought people just got out of the projects because of the crime. I didn't think about the freaking mental health thing because, yeah, remember, I've never been immersed in the projects. I've never been, um, I'm not around that kind of mentality. And even when I go to like certain areas in Hawaii, it's like again, people really just try to make the most of it. Now, it's not that depression doesn't exist in Hawaii; it does. But what I find is that you got people who get lost in their heads, and I've met a few people like that recently. But at the end of it, you treat each other with kindness and consideration. You're not going to be divisive. You're not going to be like, oh, saying kind of mean comments or just like throwing litter on the ground because, again, there's a sense of respect. And I've criticized uh, New Yorkers for not coming together, not truly coming together. And I'm not that kind of person. Like I want to really come together with people and like that kind of broken dreams, hopelessness mentality because you're really fighting an uphill battle. Um, because if people don't respect themselves and they don't respect other people, how can you expect people to change? Yeah, so there's I know people will say like I'm really ignorant about this stuff, but remember, right? Back from what I was telling you guys about my life in Hawaii, you could see how Hawaii seems like such a sunny tropical place and it's like, okay, yeah, let's everybody's just different. And then that kind of mood is infectious. So if you're around happy people, it's infectious. But if you're around depressed people, it's also infectious as well. And I have to force myself, right? And I don't want people to think I'm like being insincere or anything like that. But I have to force myself to reach out to people because I know, right, I can fall into habits. And I got a text message from someone that I met at the expo. And this person, I'll just say this. When I spoke to them, I had a feeling, a sense that they were depressed. Like when it takes, when you've gone through depression, when you meet someone new based on their, based on their, I don't want to say body language, but based on their body language, their tone of voice, just their like nonverbal cues, you can tell. You can tell when someone's dealing with depression issues, especially if you talk to them and you find a little bit more details about certain thought process. You can tell that they're depressed. And this person, right? I could tell that, they were just trying to keep it together. Like I can see that's the thing that gets under my skin when I can see people who are similar to me. And when I see that, right? It's like I choose to just kind of be like more soft around them. I try to be more uplifting around those people because it's like I think to myself, how would I want to be treated if I was going through depression? I wouldn't want people to be mean to me. I would just try to be very kind. Um, because I know how it feels to have that hurt within you and just try to keep it in. So I was talking to this person at the expo, and I could just, I was just thinking, like, I don't think they're a bad person, but yeah, I can really tell that there's some depression issues and they're just fighting through it. Now, this person was so kind that when I was packing up, they asked me, they said, "Oh, do you want me to help you with that?" And I was like, "Oh, I got to get picked up." And it's like the other side of convention. Like, we're talking like circling halfway around. Um, the building, which if you want to see how what the size is, I was at the Neil Blaisdell Center in Honolulu. So I'm from like one back side. I got to go to the opposite side. So I had to circle all around the building. And I said, "Oh, it's a lot of, it's like, it's a long walk. I don't want to inconvenience you, but thank you so much for offering to help me." And they said, "No, no, no, it's no big deal. And they basically said, "I don't mind helping you." And it's just like that human to human connection. It's like I looked at that person and I just thought, this person has depression issues, yet they're choosing to be a good person still. And I share this with you guys because I want you to know that if you're hopeless about things, it doesn't mean you have to be a jerk to people, right? It doesn't mean that you got to be like just so apathetic to people. And when I see people in Hawaii with depression issues still choose to be really good, upstanding people, it really makes me think. Like, the quality of people in Hawaii, in my opinion, are higher than the people that I was, you know, seeing around in like the immediate area of where I was living. And I kind of think to myself, right? Hindsight being 2020, how would it have been if I had a different experience of New York, right? How would it have been? Um, because I know it's not a me issue. Like, I hate to say it that way. I know that sounds very condescending, but I know it's not a me issue because if I can be around people who are depressed in Hawaii and I can still feel the warmth from them, and I can, be who I am around these people, it's just kind of makes me think like, yeah, that kind of hopelessness, broken dreams, toxicity. I mean, like that thing is just so toxic. And I think that's the stuff that makes people fall into a level where they just think to themselves, like, again, they got to get out of the projects because that kind of mentality just kills people inside. Hold on. Hold on one moment. So I won't return. No, I'm actually flying out to New York later today. So I am going to be back in New York. I am going to like declutter my stuff and things like that. Just clean out the apartment and yeah. So I'm going to be back in New York sooner than you guys think, and it's kind of like one of those things. It's like you look back at it, and I think I'm going to look back at life And I'm gonna say, I never really realized how bad it is just being around people where you just feel like people don't care for each other. Um, and yeah, look at the stream that I did, the second part of me selling plushies in I think I think it's like my third or fourth video from earlier than this. I was something like selling my plush too or something like that. It was the one before I was saying like I had success before the microphone stream. But you can see the way I was. You can see how I was interacting with people. You can see how people was interacting with me. It was eye opening to see because I didn't have that experience in New York at all. So it's kind of like when you're around people and they're just so hopeless, right? Yeah, I think it just causes a lot of issues psychologically. And if you pick up that other people don't care, eventually I think mentally you'll get beat down and you will choose not to get involved. You'll just say like get, like I don't want to deal with this. Like it's just too depressing. And that is one of the reasons why you saw me just so like hermit mode kind of thing. Like in Hawaii, okay? It's not like I'm staying indoors all the time. I was actually going out often in Hawaii when I was living here. And obviously it's like, this was before, but now it's just like even when I go out, like I don't have an apprehension of going out in Hawaii. It's just like you see how people are and you don't, you look at people and you think like, oh, there's some beautiful people out there kind of thing, beautiful hearted people. Yeah. It's just like it was a very eye-opening thing and I had mentioned it before. I had mentioned it before that I felt the people in New York, it just caused a lot of my depression. I had mentioned this like last year, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I just, chalked it up to there's just so much, I don't want to say, there's so much apathy from people. There's so much like people treating other people like crap. It's like you really lose yourself in that kind of situation. I think some people will know what I'm talking about. And then you yourself starts feeling kind of like, okay, well, let me make a best of the situation. But it's kind of like you get, you just kind of think to yourself, like, man, I can't really interact with people because people are just like that. And yeah, you know, um, what can I say? When you have people who just have this kind of mentality, it just it just really is suffocating. And again, it's it's not good. There's nothing I think that can really change those areas like the projects unless people want to change. And that's how things are in life, right? If you have if you go into a situation and you feel like it's hopelessness and you start thinking that things are hopelessness, can you see things really changing? No, your actions will follow your mind. If you go into life believing that your life sucks, you will people will pick that up. People will say, "Oh, yeah, look at this person. They think their life sucks. They wouldn't want to be around those kind of people." Um because they would just say like, yeah, if there's just too many people. Like I said, I can try to uplift people, but I can't save people. I can't save myself unless I want to save myself. So keep that kind of stuff in mind because you got to really watch the energy of people. And I don't villainize people for being depressed. I think though that people really need to catch themselves and then say, okay, what do I want to do about it? Do I want to protect myself mentally? Do I want to get out of this place? Or do you do you want to just kind of, I don't, like, yeah, you either protect yourself, you either get beat down, or you want to get out of that place. And for me, it's like, I can admit, I wasn't psychologically healthy. It wasn't like I was, uh it wasn't like, I was hateful or anything like that, but I was just so depressed. It's like I would just kind of just stay indoors because I would say that's the safest place for me to be. I didn't get the New York experience. I didn't go to a lot of places because I thought to myself, like, whenever I go out, even if I go to other areas, I just feel that people don't really care. I feel like I can't connect with people. And I've been to like New York City, like Manhattan area. I have walked around. I have gone to, walk around the area that I lived in, and it's like I just felt it, and I just did not like it, and that's why I just chose. I said, well, I can't control the outside, but what I can do is try to protect myself, and just that kind of stuff. I had no experience with it prior. So, what would my thing be, right? What would my thing for mental health be? I think that if I had changed it and I had said, okay, I'm going to go out more and I'm going to try to find a happier area, I think that would have been helpful for my mental health. If I interact with people that I could connect with. Like, basically imagine, like, if I could find a bunch of Hawaiians in New York. I think it would have been different. Um but I didn't come across those kind of people. I think depression is a very real issue in New York. And I think that there are people in New York where they just, they do things like they go drinking, they just kind of look at their life pass by. And it isn't good. Now, you got definitely, you got the go-getters and things like that, but um I find that, and maybe it's just my experience, but I find that you have a higher concentration of people who look at people and say, okay, you know, they, like, in Hawaii, right? I can talk to people. I don't even know their jobs, right? But I take an interest in them because they're cool people, they're nice people. I don't feel like the same kind of thing where it's like you look within a person and you see their value as who they are in a human being, like their heart. I don't think it's as appreciated in New York. I think people size each other up. And if people feel like they can't benefit from knowing you in any way, like, you're not a mover or something like that, I think a lot of people think that you would be disposable. It's like, why should I waste my time investing in you? You're nobody. And it's not a good kind of thinking because, as you guys know, right? If, I really think that, like, at least for me, at least where I've grown up in, right? People savor, like, how people treat each other. When people are kind to you, when people are nice to you, you will savor that. And I just felt like in New York, I was just kind of like, I don't think people cared at all. And I met people, like, I don't want people thinking like it's like I never talk to people. I tried to talk to people, but people just didn't, you could kind of tell, like, people didn't take an interest, even in like volunteering circuits and things like that. Um, I didn't feel like that connection. And I just felt like there were walls, and I was thinking, like, why is it so hard for me to connect with people in New York? What is it? Like, that the volunteering circuit should have been that connecting factor, but I don't know what it was. But yeah, in Hawaii, like, it's no deal. It's no big deal. So let me get this straight. You want to go back to a toxic place to get your stuff when Lewis could have just easily packed it up and shipped it to you? Is it surrender? Um, well, no, I mean, like, it's like I just want to, like, handle my own stuff, so I'm gonna, like, sell my plushies and things like that and try to sell it locally. But it's like a different kind of outlook on things. Like I don't want to, how would I say it? Like I don't like this thing where I feel like I just got like defeated kind of thing. I don't want to be like a dog running away with its tail between its legs. And I just, like I said, I just couldn't put my finger really specifically on what it is, but I understand. I hate to sound elitist, but I think I understand why some people they just say like, yeah, we want to stay away from the projects and things like that. We want to stay around like the hoity-toity people because if you're around like people who look like they have more means and more hope in their life kind of thing, and they're not just depressed and broken dreams, that's more mentally healthy to be around than people who just seem they just don't they just very cynical about the world. So yeah. So yeah, and I've already made plans, to like get rid of a bunch of stuff. So that's gonna be my little project in in New York, and I am also going to put myself out there and try to see different areas, and I'll let you guys know how it is, or just what I feel. But maybe I'm wrong. But I think people in New York are polite, but I also think that they they're not as emotionally connected as people in Hawaii are. Like people in Hawaii are like you meet them and you kind of get the feeling like, hey, you know, you're a good person. I'll if you need to talk or if you need, you just want to connect, like we can connect kind of thing. Like it's not like you feel that there's class differences or anything like that. I've known people where, they make a good amount of money and they're still very grounded. You know, um, it's like they don't think to themselves like, oh man, I'm dealing with the person who makes less money than me. But I feel like in New York, people size each other up. And it's kind of like a have or have not. So I personally feel like in New York, you can be a good person, but just don't expect people to take interest in you, even if you're a good person, if you don't have certain things like going for you. You see? So it's like, again, it's like you're a good person, you're nice, but what what can I gain from that kind of thing? It's like going to a job interview kind of thing, but it's just making friends. That's what I felt, like people want to be around people who are going somewhere in their life kind of thing. And it's not like when I went, like I said, my friends that I have in Hawaii, I don't really care too much about their jobs. I think to myself, hey, if you have a job, great, great. If you don't have a job, I hope you get a job because having financial security is good. But I see people for who they are and their minds, not so much as whatever their career is. See, like I'm just like, okay, yeah, cool. You have a good job, great, great for you, But how do you, like I said, like I can't, like the job thing. People can move up in job, but I rather focus more on a person, how they treat each other, how they treat them, how they view their community and connect with those people than the people who would just be like, oh, I make a lot of money kind of thing, and like that's it. So maybe you guys know what I'm talking about, where I'm getting at. It's just like I feel like yeah, you wanna like connect with people, you better have a good job. And yeah, that gives you more worth in a person's life. Even if you just want to be friends, like you should have a good job because then people will think you're more competent. People will think to themselves, oh, okay, I want to be around these kind of people because they have a good job. I know I'm repeating myself here. I know that, but let me stress to you again. I think it's important that people have a good job for people to get respect. It's not just you're a nice person kind of thing. And yeah, um, it's just like I said, I've known people, and I don't I know people who don't have jobs, but I think very highly of them because I can see the kind of quality of person that they are. When I talk about those people, it's like I don't feel any desire to freaking step on these people because I just realize a job is something that you apply for. Just because you have a job doesn't mean that job has to be your purpose in life. For instance, if I worked as a secretary, you really want to tell me that that gives me so much worth because I'm a secretary? No, that's something that I would apply for, and then I have that job. I make money, but that doesn't make me any more better than another person just because I'm a secretary. Or any less of a person because I'm a secretary. Um, and sometimes I think when people have low paying jobs, like let's say if I was a waitress or something, people could say, oh, what is she doing with her life? Why is she just a waitress? So then I think that, yeah, you could have a job and you could still get shit because then people would say, well, why don't you have a more higher job, more respectable job? But jobs, I think, are one of those things. It's important, but it's not like I said, I don't size people up and be like, I only want to meet people who are a certain caliber of job. And yeah, if they just work as a barista, then yeah, they're useless or something like that. So yeah, for anybody who has a low paying job, or let's say you work at a grocery store, I don't think that your job should define your worth. I don't think that people should size up other people and say, yeah, okay, yeah, I don't want to really talk or befriend that person who's a barista because they're a loser. I think that's just such toxic thinking, because then you can't make connections with people. And what if a person loses their job? Then what? You're gonna say, okay, I can't be friends with that person anymore because they're useless now. You see, it's just you're in or you're out, and that's it. And it's just, yeah, it gets kind of. It's just that's not something I really had to think about in Hawaii. Because in Hawaii, people, I think, care way more about how people are to each other than their freaking job. But yeah, when I go back to New York, I'm gonna try and see how people are in New York, and then I'm gonna try to interact with people in New York, and I'm gonna try. But yeah, I'm gonna get out of my comfort zone. But yeah, we'll see how it is. We'll see. I, I just, yeah, I don't really think that I hate to say it, but just on what I gauge and things like that, I don't think I'll be really making many friends in New York. But I've heard that, yeah, there's more people who are kinder when they're more in when they're more in a more expensive area, because people are just, people have means, they don't have hopelessness. And but there's a difference. I don't like being around vapid people. I hate to put it that way, but I just cannot connect with certain people. um the people, it's you try to have a conversation with them, but you can tell there's not really much there. It's very much a struggle. I can talk to people, don't get me wrong, but we need to be able to talk about something, connect about something, and it's not just something like a freaking let me talk about how much I like coffee. Or yeah, it has to be something. It has to be something. I can't just, yeah. So yeah, it's yeah, so I want to see how certain areas are, and who knows, who knows, maybe one day in the future, right? Years from now, who knows, maybe I'll return back to New York. But um I I don't see myself living in New York long term. And what I realized is that I think that ultimately, right? And this is one of the things I touched upon as well. I have you know, I have family in Hawaii, and my family isn't the biggest. And I know my dad is getting up there in age. And I saw one of the reasons why I stayed so long in New York, I mean, in Hawaii, was that I saw my dad taking care of my grandma. And he had a lot on his plate. She has dementia, she has health issues. Um, and she doesn't speak English. She doesn't she doesn't recognize me. She thinks that my grandpa, who passed away about 8 years ago, is still alive. She'll say things like, "Oh, don't put the food away." Like, basically, Grandpa is gonna go ahead and when he comes home, he's gonna he's gonna eat the food. And just dealing with things like feeding her and things like that. It's like my dad is amazing, man. I love my dad very much. And because of the cost of care, it's like the decision was made, to try and avoid putting her in a care home as long as possible because it costs $12,000 a month. And I saw my dad. He was just getting stressed out because it's a lot of work. It wasn't just him. It was, others too. But I didn't want to leave him. I didn't want to leave him because it's like I thought to myself, this is my dad. And I don't want him to be stressed out. Feel like I went off back into New York and I'm like, yeah, dad, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. Because, I think family should stick together. And I felt bad, I felt really bad because it's like I can't be in two places at once. I can't be in Hawaii and New York at the same time. But yeah, I made the decision to stay longer in Hawaii. And then, I got sick and then I thought, well, yeah, it's okay cuz yeah, it's okay cuz I'm still here at least a little bit. I knew things were in the works. I just didn't know the timeline. But February came and then, I was hearing things and things were going to get better in February and sure enough, now things are better, much better now. But it was just a really crap timing issue. But eventually, talking about this very openly, one day my dad will get older and one day he might need care. And I don't want to live a life where I say, okay, dad, I'm living my life. So sad. Yeah, you gotta like fend for yourself. So that's why um I thought to myself, right, I was doing some thinking and things like that, and I thought, if faced in the situation, do I think that I could have stayed an extended amount of time in the future in, let's say, wherever else in the world and not come back to Hawaii? I can't do that as a daughter. I really can't. Because remember, I'm an only child. And people know, like, especially if you're Asian, like, you have to watch out for your parents. And I can't be, and I refuse to be that kind of person where I say, okay, yeah, I gotta live my life, dad. Yeah, like, good luck. Like, that's really cold. I'm not that kind of person. But it would have caused, yeah, but yeah, down the line, maybe 5, 10 years ago, 10 years later, I don't know. 20 years later, it would have caused issues. And that's why I kind of think to myself, I have to long term live in Hawaii. Um, because if anything happens to my dad, 100%, I'm going to say, I need to move back to Hawaii. I'm sorry. I have to. This is my dad. And yeah, that's what I learned, and that's what I picked up just staying in Hawaii. Like, you see the love, you see so much care put into a person, and dementia is a terrible thing, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see someone that you love not recognize you. They look confused. They yeah, they forget things, and when they forget things, it's like maybe they forget beautiful memories that was made in their life. So yeah, I think caretaker burnout is a very real thing, and I think that's why when it comes down to care, people really need to and ideally have a good support system. And yeah, I can't live that kind of life where I can just enjoy myself knowing that what's happening to family, knowing what's happened to people like I really love and I care about. And yeah, you guys can feel free to, add in comments if you guys want. But yeah, I just felt like unless I found my way back to Hawaii, it would have eventually ended. Eventually. So it's better for it to end now uh, than, than 5, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, where I'm placed in a situation where I have to choose between living in one area or living in the other area. And yeah, hands down, I would pick my family, because I would say my family was there for me for so many years of my life. I can't turn my back on family. So I would, make that decision, and I would say, I'm going to move back to Hawaii. You can come with me if you want. If you don't want to come with me, then that's that. But I got to choose family. Like, I can't just, again, I can't turn my back on family. And it's one of those like tough calls, but you have to make it. I know some people, when they move on with their life, they just think to themselves like, whatever, that's not my problem. But I wasn't raised like that. I was taught to be loving to my family, and always, it's instilled like you gotta take care of your family. You gotta be there as they get older. And I've seen it in my relatives. And like I said, I was raised around that kind of environment. Um, I remember when my mom was alive, I remember she always, you know, made sure that she saw her grandma and, um, my grandma, her grandma, mom's mom. And she saw her mom, which was my grandma, right? So my great grandmother and my grandmother, she made sure that she saw them, you know, every week or often, always kept in touch kind of thing. When my great grandmother was in a nursing care home, we saw her every week, every Sunday. And it would just be, they would be talking and things like that. I don't know what was said, but I remember my mom being there, and I remember her just talking to my great grandma, and I remember it's like, that kind of connection. So yeah, you can understand why I have to, it's like with those kind of experiences in my mind, seeing what my dad's going through and things like that, you can kind of see where I'm coming from. And understand that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I can telecommute with family, but eventually they're gonna want me there in their life, I think. I don't want to, like, turn my back on family. Yeah, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it's not the same. Telecommuting isn't the same, I think. There's still like a wall you feel like between it. It's not like in person or anything like that. You can't hug a person, you can't share a meal with someone really. It's not the same. It really isn't the same. Seeing someone who goes out of their way to see you or be there for you is not the same as just saying, okay, go on your computer and yeah, we'll see each other at like 4:30 and talk for an hour and that's it. It's not the same. And that's my feeling about it. So yeah, like that was, that's what I realized. Like eventually the time will come where I would want to be with my dad, as he gets older. And I don't want to be placed in that situation where it's like, okay, that's not possible. Like, that's not possible to not move back to Hawaii. Choosing between a relationship and my dad, I would have to tell whoever I'm with, if I was in a relationship, I need you to move with me back to Hawaii. And if you choose not to move with me back to Hawaii so I can be with family, we have to end this. It's just like a deal breaker kind of thing. Cause I would think to myself like I need that person to do that. But if they say I can't, then I would have to walk out. Cause I would have to say I cannot be placed in a situation where I'm turning my back on family. That's it's like that's what it like that's how much family means to me. Um, especially as an only child, I can't like say, okay, I'll let my brother or my sister handle it. Like there's a responsibility as an only child, and I see some people they they never step up to it. They're like, okay, well my parent needs it. I'll just like keep them in a care home. I don't want to have that kind of thing. I don't want to live a life where I say, okay, yeah, I've had a great man um, be there for me in my life, and yeah, as he gets older, it's like I just turn my back. I can't do that. Well, I don't see it as like holding back. I see like time is that kind of thing where you can spend memories with people. I don't want to be that selfish person who's like, okay, yeah, my family doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't get anything financially from them, you know? Like, I'm not getting paid to be there with family. But it's like you want to be there with family. You see? Like, I've seen it, in my mom, my dad. I've seen it. I've seen how they treated each other. I've seen how they treat their family members. So I don't see it as holding back. But think about it, right? With the way that I think about my family, you think I would feel good if I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just going to let them die alone? Not my problem. Like, yeah, I got to move on with my life, you guys. Like, oh yeah, my family, they die, they die. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not. Maybe some people are comfortable being like that, but I was raised differently. And in Hawaii, it's kind of like going back to what I was saying earlier. Family is just priceless. Family is something that you want to be there. In my opinion, that's the whole point of having kids, to let them go, that have them achieve more than you. You can achieve things, but you can be there for your family too. I don't think it has to be one or the other. That's just my take on it. You guys may disagree with me, but if I had a kid, I wouldn't want to be like, oh, yeah, kid, yeah, I raised you. You know what? Go on in your life. You never have to see me again. If I have health issues, you never have to take care of me. I will take care of myself. And yeah, I don't want to hold you back, kiddo. Just like go on with your life. Just forget about me. I don't want that. I'm not that kind of person. Like, I would feel sick if I did that. I would feel disgusted with myself. And I would think to myself, like, can I really say I'm a, you know, a caring person who loves her family if I have that kind of mindset? Oh, yeah, I just got to watch out for me. Right? That's selfish. Again, I was raised differently, than having that kind of attitude where it's not my problem. It's not my problem if someone gets sick. It's not my problem if someone has issues. But I think that maybe you guys might think I'm different. Staying with a sick person ruins you. That's all I can say from experience. Yeah, but you got to care for it. Like, imagine this. You want to be, you got to put yourself in like this other situation, right? Like, if you spend a good chunk of your life around a person, are you just going to leave them when they get sick? Like, imagine, right? Let's talk about it, right? Imagine if I got married and let's say I end up with a person and they got sick, right? Let's say they started having, I don't know, let's say, something happened and they started getting dementia like my grandma does. All right. It's not going to be easy for sure. But does that give me a pass to just be all like, not my problem? No. That's a coward's way of thinking about things. And I don't feel bad about saying that kind of thing. I think a lot of people, they just don't want to deal with the ups and downs about people. They just say, like, oh, yeah, let me just avoid it. Let me just go out and have a coffee and enjoy my life. And there's a sick person, but I don't want to take care of them because that's going to take out of my life. But that person, when they were fine, when they were healthy, when they were mobile or, they didn't have dementia, they were, a mother or a father, an aunt or an uncle. So how much could someone really say that they love a person if they're not willing to step up for care? I worry about, younger generations if they don't have uh, close family ties because I think sometimes people would say, that they would have that kind of selfish attitude. And I know saying this kind of stuff is very polarizing, but anybody who has family members who are aging and they take care of them or they try to take care of them will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is not respectable to just say, oh, yeah, that person has health issues. It's a hard time. So, yeah, let me just leave them alone. Let me just let them die alone because I gotta live my life. It's cold. It's extremely cold. And in my opinion, if someone has that about a family member that they love or claim to love, that person shouldn't have been born. Because you don't do that. You don't do that to people that you love. You don't just like tuck tail and say, yeah, it's not my problem. You don't just go ahead and say like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be there for family if they need me. It's like a coward's way of handling things. Like you either got to step up and get money to help with their care, but if you can't, you have to do it yourself. If your parents love you, they'll let you go. I think that's really just that kind of thinking where people would just justify stuff and say, okay, if you love me, you'll let me be selfish to myself. Is that really love? Seriously though, is that really love? If you have two people in a relationship, one person gets sick, would it really be like, oh, I love you so much, please divorce me and please let me die alone? There's a reason why marriage vows say in sickness as in health, for sickness and in health, for richer or for poor. It's not just, oh, when we're healthy, we'll stay together. And when one of us gets sick, like we'll just leave each other because we love each other. You see? Like there's something very flawed with that kind of thing. No, but if you're going to say, if your parents love you, they'll let you go, then you should apply that to any marriage. If you love a person, right? let's say if I have mobility issues in the future, right, and I get married, do you know how like fucked up it would be if I told the person that I'm married with, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not really mobile anymore. Please divorce me. I love you." Like people would say that's so that shows that I don't, my partner is not a real partner if they can't handle that. Like if I'm just like, "Oh yeah, I can't walk anymore. I need someone to help me with mobility issues." I wouldn't want to be around a person like that. I've been around really good men in my life. I have like an uncle, and I think I've told you about it. His wife is has some sort of illness. She's stuck in a wheelchair. She has depression. This husband, he works so hard to try and provide for her and the kids. He's the only breadwinner in that family. But you know what? He's still around because he loves her. He has to not take care of only her. He has to take care of like one of her parents too. So he's taking care of two people plus two kids plus holding a job and side jobs as well just to make sure his family is together. That in my opinion is a real man. 100% a real man. When I look at my uncle, right? I'm so inspired by him because he has to cook, clean, feed two people plus his kids. And does he complain about it? Does he say like, "Oh, I want to just leave my wife or leave my wife's parent?" No, he doesn't say that. It doesn't even dawn on. He steps up. But yeah, so I don't like being told like, "Oh yeah, if you love them or if they love you, then they'll just say like, "Oh yeah, you don't have to worry about me. You don't have to take care of me." Because one day we all will die, right? Not everybody is like 100% mobile. It's easy for us to just make these things where it's like, "Oh yeah, well it's not my problem when we have mobility." But when the years tick on by and we start having health issues, or if we do have a health issue, then what? What is it? Is it justified for people to just let us die alone because, oh, we got to be loving? No, we should call out people and say you're fucking selfish. Like the only people you care about is really yourself and your convenience. Like fuck that. I will never ever do that to family, you know? And I would never ever do that to a partner too. I would try my best to try and find a way. But yeah, if it's now in this day and age where it's like, okay, yeah, the going gets tough, just leave. That's being loving. Like no, that's not loving at all. That's freaking like super clown behavior. And plus, flip it in the other shoes. What if you had a kid and you had health issues and you say, "Hey, I'm going through issues or I have medical issues." Wouldn't you want your kid to step up? Or would you want your kid to just say, "Sorry, mom. Sorry, dad. That's a you problem. I got better things to do in my life than deal with you." I would not want my kid to do that. I'd be ashamed if I had a kid like that. I would feel so ashamed of myself. For having a kid that if they had that kind of thinking and they spoke to me that way. So all your relatives have to be in one place. That's the only solution for you. Well, I have one dad. That guy is like my utmost priority. Um, because my dad is a great man. I've spoken about him before. Um, after my mom died, he really he really stepped up. You know, he works, like 7 days a week. He tries his best, to be a good person, to be a good son, to be a good father. And I love him very, very, very much. And the kind of man that my dad is, it's like I could never turn my back on my dad. If I feel like I'm needed, or if I feel like, he's going through something, I don't want to just like hop on a plane and be like, bye, dad, kind of thing. Oh, yeah, you deal with it. That's a you problem. No, I don't. Like I said, like with my uncle passing away, last year, I wasn't in Hawaii. I was separated from family, but my dad was going through some stuff, and part of me wishes bigly that I was there. I had no idea what was going on in Hawaii. I had no idea what was going on with my uncle's health. I never saw my uncle in person in the hospital at all. I was very thankful that I got to talk to him for a short period of time. But by the time I got to talk to my uncle, you guys, I couldn't understand what he said. He tried to talk to me, but I could not understand him. But all I could tell him is that he was very loved, and we love him and we pray for him. And I think like 2 months later or something like that, or 1 month later, he passed away. And when I found out, when I came back to Hawaii, and people were telling me about all the stuff, all the health issues, all the emergency visits and things like that. Like, yes, he's my uncle. Yes, he's not my dad. But that was the uncle that my dad was closest to. And they made a pact where my uncle and my dad were talking, and because, they're both two single guys and they're like 60s, right? My uncle told my dad, he said, don't worry. We'll take care of each other as we got older. I know Erica's off on the mainland, but yeah, we'll watch out for each other. We'll be good. And everything was supposed to be fine. That's why I was thinking to myself, like, oh, that's great. My uncle, after COVID, he moved back to Hawaii, helped, he lived with my grandma. He owns the apartment, okay? So don't think that he was just like, he couldn't find a place to live. Like, no, he bought an apartment for my grandma, a very, very good son. And he came back to Hawaii to watch over her, be with her, take care of her, go shopping with her, be there for her. And just a really good son, really, really good son. And then, yeah, my dad and him got to speak. They talked to each other and things like that, hang out, two brothers finally together kind of thing. And then cancer came. And then after he got diagnosed, he only had 4 months to live before cancer took him. So that promise that, my uncle would be there for my dad and vice versa, because I wasn't in Hawaii, it, it didn't pan out the way that was expected. Now my dad doesn't need people to like watch over him right now, but I'm sure, that I'm sure it saddened him, to lose a brother like that, a really, really amazing person. And yeah, with the health issues with my grandma, it's like, okay, the one person that my uncle tried to protect and was my grandma. And when he passed away, and her health was getting worse. After Thanksgiving, they found out she fractured 7 ribs or something like that, and then she was she has dementia, and she has also breast cancer. I just thought to myself, like, yikes, that's really something. So that's why I talk about things like that. I'm not sugarcoating stuff, but yeah, my responsibility as a daughter is to be there for my dad in the future, inevitably, kind of thing. And if I find that, he needs me in the future, I will be there 100%. I will dump any guy I'm with if he makes me choose between my dad and him, because I would say I have to be there for my dad. But yeah, I never got to that point. But just reflecting on things like that, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if, in the future it got to that point. Where if something happened to my dad, it would be, you know, that situation. So that's why I feel like I'm better off in Hawaii, where if anything happens, at least I'm here, you know? At least I'm here and I can be with family. And I'm not looking to date anybody, but I would like to stay on this island because I think that eventually I will have to, I will want to be there for family. I would have to go back if anything happens. So take it however you guys want to. Like, if anything happened to my dad, you guys, 1000%, no matter where I was in the world, I would have said, I need to be there with my dad. Like, no questions asked. And yeah, if it took time, I would still be there for my dad. Because I love my dad very much. I can't, I can't even entertain the idea of just letting my dad, like, deal with issues by himself without feeling like there was some kind of system in place that would alleviate my mind. I would not feel good. Like I said, I would not feel good just leaving my dad by himself. If I felt like he was going through a difficult time. So yeah, yeah, that's that's that kind of thing. So you can see where I'm getting at and why I have certain views about certain things. And do people really want to move to Hawaii when Hawaii is so expensive? I don't think so. And I had discussed that with Lewis when we were dating. He didn't want to move to Hawaii. And I thought to myself, oh, that sucks. I wouldn't be near family. But thinking about things now, right? I would have ultimately said, if forced in the position, I would have said, I got to go back to my family. Like, you can either wait or you can come with me. And, it's a difficult conversation to have. And, I won't have to have that conversation now. But, yeah. I wouldn't, like I said, I if anything happened, I would have to come back to Hawaii if it was if it really was stressing out my dad and stuff like that, or if I felt like my dad was getting negatively affected by a situation. For my uncle, when I heard about the cancer diagnosis, I wanted to come back to Hawaii, but just to see how everything was and talk to him and things like that. But it was difficult, Once I heard the diagnosis, I offered to fly back, but I was actually dissuaded from it because of COVID, something like he could only have one visitor a day and with a bunch of siblings, right? Like, yeah, I didn't want to do that. And then I was just, like I mentioned, I was out of the loop. I think people just didn't involve me in it because they're thinking like, oh, Erica's like 5,000 miles away. And I wasn't very, like I wasn't very good at keeping in touch with people. Now I'm actively trying to be different. But I wasn't very good with keeping in touch with people at all. Um, and as a result, people acted appropriately, right? Like, okay, you know, yeah. Like I mentioned, I didn't know my uncle was taking a turn for the worse because nobody told me about it. If I had known he was taking a turn for the worse, I would have flown back to Hawaii and, been there to just see him. But I thought everything was fine. I sincerely thought that. I truly believed he was going to be. I truly believed he wasn't getting worse. Yeah, it really affected me. It really affected me when he passed away, and I thought to myself, how come I wasn't told, like, about this? How come no one told me about his health? And ultimately, I have no one to blame but myself because I never inquired. I thought people would tell me about his health. Um, but yeah, so these are some real kind of things that, let's say, if you're in your 20s or 30s or listening to this stream, again, be prepared for the future. Your loved ones will eventually pass away. They might have mobility issues, they might have dementia. Um, and yeah, but yeah, um, I spoke to people and they're like, "Oh, Erica, it's so unfortunate about the timing thing, with the whole stuff that happened." But it is what it is. Like, I don't want people to think like I'm super, like I'm just like thinking to myself, like beating myself up about certain things, because at the end of the day, I just couldn't just, I couldn't get on a plane until I felt like everything was okay. And now things are so much better. Um, but it was just really a timing issue. I remember people from when they weren't sick. I do. But I think that we need to be there for people in sickness and in health. Do you know how bad it would be if I felt like I got sick and my close friends, like if I'm like, oh, hey, like I need you to be there for me, my dear friend or my dear family members. And I try to reach out to them and they're like, sorry, Erica, you're sick. You're dead weight. Too bad. I would feel so heartbroken. I would feel so heartbroken. But yeah, I'm very lucky that I have some really, really good people in my life. People who I look up to, people that, and, I think to myself, like, man, I want to be that kind of person in the future. I want to be that kind of person where if, uh, if I do get married one day, and, that's one of my goals in life. I want to get married. I want to have a kid. I want to have a kid or so. I want to be a great mom. Um, but I just hope that I can have a partner where we can be there for another. If I get sick, they'll be there for me. If they get sick, I'll be there for them. And if things take a turn for the worse, then I know that we'll still be together. We'll still like watch over each other. And yeah, not this whole thing about convenience kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, sorry partner, I love you, but I gotta go. It's getting too tough, right? Because you hear about those stories where you got this like one partner who gets sick, and then the other partner just like leaves them. They're like, yeah, you're holding me back. I can't deal with you. Let's break up. That isn't true love. True love is not just thinking about oneself, but it's also thinking about the other person and seeing two people together like a team, right? Like a team, a partnership. And you cannot have a team if one person is so willing to just be all like, you're holding me back from living my best life. I can't deal with taking care of your ass. Again, that's why, my uncle that I was saying about how he takes care of his, I think his mom's mom or his, mother in law and his wife. I have so much respect for that guy. I really do. I went out to dinner with him a couple months ago, and I remember I was talking to him, and he was I remember, like I offered to pay, right? And he said, "No, Erica, like I will pay for the meal." And he said, "If you try to pay for this meal, Erica, you're walking home." And I just remember I was like taken aback by it. But you can see he was raised to be, a protector. He was raised to be on a higher level. And it's not just towards his wife and his mother-in-law and his kids. It's also like other people that he knows. And yeah, I just like a guy like that is so extremely rare, you guys. I don't know if you guys feel that same way, but my goodness, like that guy is like a total like rock. You're just so strong and so, dedicated to family, and I'm related to him. That's my mom's brother. And like I said, he has a really good head on his shoulders. Really, he really looks out for people. And yeah, he put himself out there and he reached out to me too. He was telling me, he said, your mom used to say that blood is thicker than water. And yeah, like that's where family loyalty lies. Yeah, my uncle is just an amazing man. Both of my uncles, I think the male figures in my family, they're incredible. They're really strong people. They're very loving, they're very caring, they're very protective. It's like family focused. I have a cousin. He's the same age as me, and he does what he can for his mom. He takes her places. He tells his mom, like, hey, please take care of yourself. Please go to the doctor for this. He's just, he's a wonderful son. And I told my aunt that. I said, your son is a great son. He's so dedicated and he's so loyal to you. He's just he's just amazing. And I think people should aspire to be like that kind of like higher caliber, because it's easy. It's easy to just be like, oh yeah, not my problem. Yeah, whatever, whatever. But it's harder, and it takes more effort to be a good, son, daughter, you know, brother, uncle, whatever. Husband, wife. It's I think people need to take their roles very seriously, and not just be like, oh well, I exist and that's enough. Because yeah, if we just go on this whole thing where we say, oh, it's okay if we just exist, then we're a good let's say partner because we just exist. Like, I don't think that's cutting the cake. And yeah, I think the females who are with these really amazing guys, I think they're so fortunate, to have these like top quality guys in their life. And that's one of the reasons when you hear me talk about all these freaking clowns, it's like you have to understand, I'm not saying all guys are clowns. I would not even dare to put my uncle, the one who's taking care of his wife and his mother-in-law and the two kids, even near any of the clowns. Okay, this guy is like freaking legendary status kind of thing in my opinion. Like, he's just very very rare. But it all came down to values, values, trying to be strong and things like that, trying to be a good man. And I encourage guys to be that way, to invest in people rather than just say, oh yeah, well, it's too difficult. It's too difficult for me to do this, or it's too difficult for me to do that. I think we have a lot of weak males and guys who just go into marriages or something like that out of convenience, because it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, let me just like do the bare minimum, and then if they get married, it's like, oh, okay, well, my wife got sick, I'm gonna leave her because, yeah, it's fine. You hear about, like I said, you hear about those stories where people leave relationships, not just guys, but like women too, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't want to be in any marriage or anything like that if I picked any of those vibes up. Yeah. Yeah, like screw those guys. Those guys should not have kids, because the kids will take after their kids, their father. And that brings up another point, right? For women and both guys, you guys got to make sure you find a really good partner, okay? You don't want to be one of those people who was like, "Oh, I'm with her cuz or I'm with him cuz he hot." Like, ew, if you lose your looks, you're going to get dumped in the curb like a piece of trash. And I don't want that for you guys. Like, you guys got to find like people like my uncle, where it's just so much loyalty, and never ever ever like turn your back on people who are loyal to you, because it's, I can tell you from experience, it is very hard to find people who are loyal to you. Very hard. um they exist, but in terms of like partner, it's hard. Friends, it's hard. Of course, a partner, or well, being married has a much different weight to it than just like hooking up, right? Or just dating. But yeah, yeah. As you can tell, like, I'm one of those people. I would consider myself to be kind of like one of those people who was like, I would take any marriage vow like super seriously. Um, because I think it's true. People should be there for each other in sickness and in health. For richer or for poor, and just protect that. Kind of thing. And screen carefully, because if you are with a clown, I don't care how good looking that clown is or whatnot. That if you have a kid with that guy or that woman, the kid's gonna be like Bozo Jr. if that person is not a good parent. And I refuse I refuse to entertain the idea of ever having a child who becomes a clown. So yeah, like I truly believe that. And if I had a kid, once again, and if I had a kid, and my kid said, "Yeah, mom, yeah, I'm just like, I don't care about you. I know you invested all this time, love, and energy in me, but I don't care about you. Um, and I know you need me, but I'm not going to be there for you." I'd probably be very close to disowning that child, because I would feel so disappointed. Because I would think to myself, I tried to raise that kid better. People could think that's very harsh, but again, if any child says that to their parent, and the parent just loved and cared for them, you can understand how heartbreaking it is. But I don't anticipate my child having that kind of mentality. In an ideal world, people are just there for one another. They're not gonna just be like, okay, you got sick. Let me exit stage door left. I really believe relations family is all we got at life at the end of it. You can have all the, fancy stuff in the world. You can have a home that's filled with luxurious items, but I don't think any item can fill the pot of emptiness, the void. Um, and that's why it's so important to make sure that you have good people in your life. Yeah, and that all costs money. It all costs money. And it costs a lot of money. So you either have money and you can do that, or if you don't have money and you can't do that, then yeah. Zoton, are you trolling me? You think I can really come up with $12,000 a month by myself? Because I'm going to ask people, do you guys think that you can spend $12,000 a month on care for a person? I don't see myself raking in over 200K a year at any job. Because then, yeah, 12 times 4 is 144 plus taxes. Actually, it would have to be more than that. Yeah, in Hawaii, it's like $12,000 for care. Full time nursing care and stuff like that. Nursing care home. Oh, so much money. It's a lot of money. I've known, I don't know if I told you guys this, but I had a neighbor, and her husband were together for like 25 years. He was a lawyer. He had a lot of money, and they had a good chunk of money squirreled away. But the problem is that he ended up with Alzheimer's, I think. And they bought insurance to cover his care. However, then the thing that the insurance covered, the care was just so subpar. She couldn't do that for her husband. She couldn't put him in that kind of facility. So what she did is that she put him into a top tier facility, and the money that he made, the money that they had saved together, that money had that money was used for his care. And it took from what I ascertained from it, it took a big chunk out of whatever nest egg that they had. And she doesn't regret it. But imagine if you are a lawyer and your care just gets so expensive that the one person that you try to work for and protect, it's like, yeah, it just takes a hit, right? And that's why it's like, yeah. So he passed away. He passed away. They were together when he passed away, and from what I hear, was a beautiful death. She had music playing and things like that. But financially, it took a sizable toll, and that's the reality about that kind of care. A lot of money. $144,000 a year. How long will that person need to be put in care? Think about that. And like I said, most people are not going to be willing to spend that much money. My mom's mom, my grandma, she was put in a nursing care facility, but to pay for that, they had to sell her apartment. Family tried to take care of her as long as we could. She actually lived with my mom, my dad, and I. But the problem with her is that she had a brain tumor. So it got to a point where she just needed more and more care. And that's why the decision was made to put her inside of a nursing home. And that was a lot of money. I remember it's like we would visit her. And I remember it's like when her mind was starting to go, it was so sad. Because we would see her and then she would say, my mom would ask her and she was like, Mom, do you know what month it is? And she would say, oh, it's March. And it definitely wasn't March. Um, but thankfully, it's like she still recognized my mom. And you know, I remember hearing about when she passed away. They got a call saying she was not doing so good. And then by the time my mom got there, my grandma passed away. Um, yeah, but see, at least my mom was there to to um to be there, to see her body and things like that. And yeah, this happened years ago. This many years ago. My grandma passed away. But yeah, just seeing how my mom was, seeing how my uncle is, it's like you kind of get it instilled in you that family is so important. It really is, you know. Like at the end of the day, family is and our memories is all we have. Money helps definitely, but it's not everything, you know. And I want you guys to remember that because if you go through life and you think you'll find happiness just by buying like expensive stuff, that's not true happiness. That really isn't. Happiness, I really feel, is in our bonds and our connections with others. But you gotta recognize it. And some people, they refuse to do that. They refuse to connect with people. They just think to themselves, why should I talk to a poor person? And I think there's something wrong with that kind of thinking. Oh yeah. What time is it? Oh, it's freaking almost 5 a.m. I've been up for about 2 hours. But yeah, maybe people are interested in what I say. Maybe they're not, but I just wanted to document some of my thoughts. Maybe it encourages people to think differently about life and not just go down the ideal of, okay, let me just get a luxurious lifestyle and that's it, right? Because that's the thing I think about American society. It's like, oh, you want to like keep up with the Joneses kind of thing. And yeah, if you want to do that, like go right ahead, but never ever forget about family. How about people who hug a bucket like it's their best friend? What do you mean by that? Like what? They don't have any friends, so they hug a bucket? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Like they can't socialize with people? So they just look at inanimate objects to provide that comfort to them? No freaking luxury item is going to provide that comfort. No, And no freaking $3,000 couch is gonna be able to replace a human being. And all the stuff that we have, eventually we're gonna have to get rid of it anyway, you know, in our life. Um, I truly believe that. Um, like we can't take our stuff with us forever and ever and ever, you know? So keep that stuff in mind as well. Yeah. Kinda under the weather a bit, yeah. I hope you feel better. I hope you feel better. Oh my goodness, my mouth is so dry right now. Oh my god. So yeah, that's how I see things. So yeah, whatever you guys choose in life, you know, just think about what kind of life you want to live, what kind of person you want to be, how you want to be towards people. Don't have that like selfish attitude where you think to yourself, well, the only person I care about life is myself. And if I have a family member who's suffering or needs help, like that's on them. Like survival of the fittest. Um, if you want to be around that kind of mentality, go to the freaking projects in New York and you'll see that left and right. You'll see people who just only care about themselves. They don't care about the community. And it just makes the world a much darker place. Right? So don't be hopeless. Um, you know, have faith and love and care about people. And yeah, care about not just your family members, you guys. Like, care about your friends too. You know, try to be there for your friends. Try to be there for, you know, people that you're with as well. And I find that it's a better way to live life. I think so, at least. So I will talk to you guys later. It's getting late. It's 5 o'clock. So yeah, just some things I wanted to share off my brain. And yeah, again, I anticipate eventually I would have had to come back to Hawaii to be there for my dad. And yeah, no, there's no community fridges in Hawaii. There isn't. You don't have any of that stuff at all. But yeah, I have a bunch of stuff that I'm gonna have to get rid of because in New York, bunch of food, and I think it's gonna, you know, be okay because I'll just drop it off at a community fridge and then someone else can take it. So yeah, you guys take care. I shall see ya. And yeah, just watch how you treat yourself, watch how you treat other people, and try to be a good person. See ya.